you.
This is the Triple Play Fantasy Basketball Podcast. I am Coach James Lewis, fresh off a charter fishing trip over here in the Chesapeake Bay. Caught some nice rockfish. About to make a good meal with that later. Gentlemen, as always, the divergent Bradley Kilgore. Shout out UMBC. What's up, Brad?
Yes, sir. Always. I'm ready to talk some hoops, man. Let's get it.
And we brought our guy, Chase Rieder, coach of Walter Johnson varsity basketball team, 14-year Washington Wizards team attendant, my Towson University alumni brother. Chase, how you doing?
Yes, sir. Doing well, man. Happy to be back. Thanks for having me back. Ready to talk.
We gotta make you a regular, man. We gotta have you meet Eric and Kevin and them.
Okay. Yeah, we just got to get Kevin to get on here. We got to get Eric to come out of his hiding. We miss you guys.
Yeah. When's the last time Eric's been on the show?
He hopped on with the draft. He got in there a little bit, although we couldn't see him.
Draft.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. He's still hiding. Even when he showed up, we couldn't see his face.
Yeah.
Oh, here he is. Speaking of the devil.
I was just saying, Eric, when's the last time Eric was on a basketball show?
I have some more stability now, so I was like, all right, here we are.
Fresh off a rough Saturday night, Doc Mendelson. How
wearing
you doing,
a blanket.
Buddy? Rough Friday night as well. We're here to talk some hoops, baby.
Oh, the fun bunch is here. I love it. It just got exciting. And we got some news. The end of the summer is right around the corner, although it feels that way since a couple of us teachers are back in school. Kiddos coming in tomorrow. A big trade happened. Larry Nance Jr.
It's not a big trade.
Well, it was a very light newsworthy week, probably the lightest NBA newsworthy week that we've seen since pre-bubble.
That's fair.
So I guess this is big for me in a week because I haven't seen much on the ticker. The jump is gone. I don't know if we're going to talk about that or not, but they took away the jump, and that was a show I watch every day. Like I had it on record. I want to watch every single part of it,
and they're going to make it worse.
I thought it was a great. I don't know what they're going to do with it. Do we know?
Apparently, they're going to just give Stephen A. a show with Will Bond and Magic Johnson, and then just have that every day. Magic Johnson's gonna say nothing. Will Bond's got his generic take. I at least learn stuff on the jump with a mean and people that were in the front offices and would teach you things and break news. That was great. I'm gonna miss it.
I feel like they had to scrub the jump because of all the Rachel Nichols stuff, and Paul Pierce was a big part of that show. There's just too much hot water with the personalities in there, and I feel like you can't just bring in new people. You just make a new show instead.
But shout out to Brad's point. They brought in a lot of different characters, not just former NBA players, but good writers, people that know the ins and outs of monetarily speaking, the contracts of these players. And I know this is the jump put me on with Zach Lowe, someone that I really respect his basketball opinion.
Ethan Strauss will be on there. There was just a lot of great journalists that were constantly teaching you something. It wasn't just takes that you can find anywhere.
First time I saw Malika Andrews was on the jump, and
Malika Andrews was on there.
Are you gonna whisper her name today, Brad?
I'm not, and I'm gonna delete you saying that.
All right, so we have a trade to talk about. Larry Nance and a second-round pick Goes to Portland from Cleveland. Cleveland gets Lauri Markkaken on a 4-year, $67 million contract. The Bulls get a protected non-lottery first-round pick that goes all the way to 2028 from Portland. And Derrick Jones Jr. What do you like? What do you not like about the trade? Let's start with Chase.
It's funny. So last week when I was on here, we talked about how Portland's offseason was just flawless. And
Yeah.
and to add the great Larry Nance is just the most Portland thing ever. It really does nothing for their team. I mean, again, maybe it helps them on the defensive side, but Derrick Jones Jr. was interesting because they were playing him a lot last year, and then during the playoffs, he kind of just went out of the rotation when Norman Powell came in, and then he wasn't getting any time in the playoffs. So does this really do anything for Portland? In my opinion, not really. I mean, it's great for Cleveland. I mean, Lauri Markkaken needed a new team. Again, we don't really know. Like I was kind of saying on the last show. I mean, when the Bulls were bad, and it was 2 years ago before the bubble, he was putting up numbers. I mean, he had some really nice games. The Bulls were kind of saying that he's going to be the next Porzingis, and then he kind of fell off last year. He had some injury problems, but the Bulls kind of just wanted him out, and I mean he got paid. So it's just crazy to me that one season. You can put up numbers and then, other GMs, see that and they're like, oh, this could be our guy. So, I mean, again, with Cleveland, he'll put up numbers, but Cleveland is still kind of a mess in my opinion.
Brad, what you got to say?
Well, I mean, to me, Larry Nance and Derrick Jones Jr. are kind of like similar players. Like, I don't see the upgrade there. They're both like rim running bigs that can jump out of the gym. I suppose Larry Nance does a little more dirty work.
He does a lot. He does a lot more on the court.
He plays a little more defense, but in terms of like what Dame is looking for, it's like Dame doesn't want to have to score 60 points in a buzzer beater like to win by 2 in the playoffs every time. Like he wants somebody that can actually change the outcome of a game, and that's not like no disrespect, but that's not Larry Nance Jr. Like he's a missing piece that you need to add. Like if you need some toughness or you need to run a small ball lineup that, somebody that can play the 4 or the 5. You need somebody that can run a pick and roll. Like he's almost like an ancillary piece that you add. He's not somebody that is like an extra superstar that takes Portland to the next level. So I don't really understand this trade. I think they were better off just letting Derrick Jones do his thing and give him more minutes. Like Chase said, like he just kind of fell out of the rotation. So I don't really know what Portland's front office is doing. Hopefully they prove us wrong and prove Dame wrong, but we'll see. Time will tell.
Come on, Doc. Defend the guy. Larry Nance Jr.
Right.
and Derrick Jones Jr. are like the same player, Doc. You heard it
first.
All
right. So here's my thing about Larry Nance. Very bad injury luck last season. Right wrist sprain on 2 separate occasions. Fractured the fourth metacarpal on his left finger. He had a mysterious illness.
That's why they call him Doc. Fourth metacarpal.
He had a mysterious illness where he lost 20 pounds
finger,
at one point. Yeah. I just had to sound a little fancy. But so all that being said, he's a guy that does it all. Averaged about 10 points, 6 rebounds, 3 assists, was actually leading the NBA in steals before his first injury thing. So he's a type of guy that you need. And I think he has a very high motor, which works well with Dame. I don't necessarily understand getting rid of Derrick Jones because I was a fan of him as well. I think it's kind of like a wash. Maybe they upgrade a little bit. But I do think it's easier to find scoring, whether in a buyout market. I'm not saying that Jamal Crawford is going to come back, but like a Carmelo or a Jamal Crawford or even someone like a Dennis Schroeder that took a $5.6 million deal with the Celtics, I think you can find scoring easily than you can find people that want to do the dirty work, because at the end of the day, this is the NBA. A lot of these players have egos and they're not willing to sacrifice them for the team. They want their own stats.
Yeah, and their problem is defense, and that's where I see Larry Nance Jr. as an upgrade here.
Also, Lauri Markkaken, better contract than Davis Bertans, I'll say.
Already, even if he gets hurt and doesn't play.
Like Derrick Jones played defense though. Like he was getting, you would see him on the jump getting those huge blocks. Like you would see him, he's kind of almost LeBron-esque in how he'd let somebody he let somebody blow by him so he could trail and then get the block. Like he had that kind of athleticism defensively.
I wouldn't say that's great defense because you can make great plays. I think like
he's slider on defense. Like
it's not
Larry Nance has a
defense.
bigger build, and I think that he obviously with his anticipation for steals, but he can also body up with some of the bigger players a little bit better. And I think
but in an interchangeable NBA where like, you know, everybody's playing 5 positions now almost, like a guy like Derrick Jones, like he's not a slouch. Like he can guard wings. He maybe can't bang around with some 5s, but he can guard wings and the occasional 4. Like Derrick Jones had plenty of upside, and it seems like they gave up on him for a similar player to me.
I don't see the problem with this for Portland. I kind of agree with Chase as far as it doesn't move the meter much. Like I don't know if this win total might go up 1 or 2 wins now that you have Larry Nance Jr. starting in that lineup, but Phillips is trying to find a nucleus in which he can trust defensively, and obviously he wasn't thinking that with Derrick Jones Jr. I think that he gets blown by some of the quicker guards, and he gets beat up a little bit by some of these bigger players. Not saying that Larry Nance Jr. is this elite defender, but he is an upgrade there, and he does pass the ball very well in an offense where Nurch can get you some buckets. He passes decently as well. Covington's just out there really to play defense. I mean, he averaged maybe 8 points a game, and he was playing like 32 to 30.
This was one of the worst years he's ever had, though. That's not him as a player.
I think with the system that Chauncey brings in, I'm intrigued to see, you know, kind of how he inflects winning into this franchise. They needed to switch Terry Stotts and obviously Damian Lillard were very, very tight. But they needed a new look. Sometimes you hear the same voice for years and years and years, and you know they are who we think they are. They're going to be like the Pacers of the East. Like they'll be in the playoffs, but you know there's probably not a good chance they'll get out the first round. But I don't like this Lauri Markkaken thing though. I don't like him in Cleveland. We talked about in the group chat. They already have so many bigs. Love isn't looking for a buyout. I saw that was reported because I my speculation is like, oh, okay, buyout season. He'll be find his way to a contender. He might, you know, put the stamp.
Coach,
yeah, go ahead.
Let me ask you something. So, do you think that, let's say Kevin Love got a buyout, do you think there's a single team, like he's coming off of basically getting kicked out of the Olympics for being out of shape? Like, do you think that a team would offer him a minimum deal, like if he did get a buyout? Like I think that's why he doesn't want to buy out.
The Lakers would be the first one at the gate. Of course, he played with Russell Westbrook in college. They went to the Final Four. He's won a championship with LeBron James. There's continuity there. He's had some big moments, and he's selfless. He's a selfless player, and so I think that they would be the first ones at the gate waiting. And then Brooklyn has second choice on that matter. I think that that's where the market is for a player like that. That's all about winning. That will take that minimum deal. He just got paid over $100 million on that contract.
What about you, Chase?
Good.
Yeah, I mean, I think there are teams that that would take him, but the thing is, like you said, Brad, like he doesn't want that buyout because he doesn't want to go from taking that minimum, because really, like you said, he was out of the Olympics because he was out of shape. I've been saying that all year when he came to play us. Early in the year, I mean, you would have thought he was 45. He was at the YMCA. I mean, he couldn't even get up and down the court.
Yeah, how much would that buyout cost him? He would have to eat like $20 million. Like we just saw LaMarcus Aldridge do that same thing, and then it ended up being kind of terrible for him because he didn't bring in that money. And he found out that he's got a condition which might jeopardize his health. He almost
needs to play like he needs to play his market value up. Like he needs to get minutes on the Cavs, give him like 20 and like 8, and then maybe accept a buyout. Because I think as it sits now, like I don't see the Lakers having any use for him. I don't see the Nets having any use for him. Like Blake Griffin.
So if you're the Cavs,
Kevin Love doesn't fit on any team right now. Maybe a rebuilding team.
Does he start?
And that's not to say he's a scrub. Like he's probably a Hall of Famer.
He's a scrub at this point right now, and it's partially because of injuries.
If you're the Cavaliers, are you starting Kevin Love or Markkaken?
It depends who's making the starting lineup, the GM or the coach? The coach probably says no. The GM says we're paying this guy $30 million. He's playing.
Well, and they're also still like in the rebuilding phase. Do they want to win?
But right? are they in the rebuilding phase if they give a $67 million contract to Markkaken and $100 to Jared Allen? Like I feel like rebuilding is when you shed contracts.
I think they're trying a different approach here. I think they're trying to find some contracts that may be movable in the future. What does this say about Colin Sexton? I did want to hear your opinions on that because Colin Sexton is due to get paid, and you throw 100 at Jared Allen, and now you give 67 to Lauri, which is literally, this is a risk here. You're trying to see. Hopefully, you can rebuild this guy's career to showed some promise as a rookie. But what does this say about Colin? He's been in trade speculations the past 2 years. It looks like Darius Garland might have the higher upside and might be their guard of the future. I don't see those two guys pairing well because they're small. We see how elite Portland's guard play is with two smaller guards, but you see it's not working. And are those two guys equivalent in the future to Dame and CJ? I don't see that. What does this say about Colin? Do you guys see him on the move?
He gone. They ain't paying him.
Chase?
Yeah, I mean, like you said, Garland and Sexton are just not going to work together. Those are two small guards. I don't even know if they're both 6 feet. They're maybe right an inch below 6 feet. But on the defensive, I mean, they both scorers. But on the defensive end, you can't have them both on the court. It's kind of like having Nate Robinson and Isaiah Thomas. Yeah, it's just,
right.
Again, they're scoring every time, but especially these days with all the analytics. I'm sure analytics shows you that those two guys on the court, the defensive rating goes down a ton.
Brad, you see him gone too?
I don't actually. I might be in the minority here because I think even though he's in trade discussions every year, like they could have pulled the trigger and they didn't because they know his value. So to me, it's like this is a guy that has literally, if you look at his stats, he's literally gotten better every single year of his career. And he's going to continue to do so. He doesn't play any
23
defense.
A game. They don't just give out 23 a game.
They don't just give that. The thing is
24.
with him is it's coming off the back of like a huge usage rate. Like he's going to have the ball in his hands constantly. And like Doc said, like if you are rebuilding, if you are retooling, you don't want to have a ball dominant guard kind of messing with the growth of your other players, like an Okoro. If you draft an Okoro that high, you want to see him grow. It's hard for him to grow if he's not going to get those looks. So I don't know where Colin Sexton fits, but he is their offense at this point. So I think he's probably going to stay. To me, I don't know. I think they have to pay him almost. It's almost like De'Aaron Fox on the Kings before he became like almost an all-star caliber guard. He was kind of just a ball dominant, really fast John Wall type, couldn't shoot. And then he grew into a scorer. He grew into somebody that could distribute. He grew into a defender, getting a bunch of swipes. So I kind of see that similar career arc for Sexton. So, but we'll see. I'm a little optimistic. And I think Garland's a great 3-point shooter. So like Chase said, neither of them can play defense, but if you can shoot, you're gonna have a role. So I don't know.
I'm with Doc and Chase on this. I think that he is on the way out. I don't know when, but he's definitely going to be giving you numbers, and that might be intriguing to some other team.
Who do you think he fits with?
Nobody. Nobody and everybody. So, I mean, I think that he can be a good contributor on all these teams, but I don't think he affects winning in the larger picture when you're comparing him to other elite guards in our league. I think that he gets money. He gets buckets. He's not the greatest distributor. What else does he do? He doesn't rebound at a high clip. I mean,
he's a Dennis Schroeder comp almost. Like he could get $85 million or he could get $5 million. Like it just depends on the fit.
Like Monte Ellis-esque.
As
far as like
I see that.
You're a bigger guard. You get buckets. You get on the highlight tape, but is that a winning player?
You see, Monte's trying to come back.
What's that?
You see Monte Ellis is trying to make a comeback?
Oh, yeah. Good luck with that. I haven't seen him on the scene at all. Yeah, you said that. I was like, that's interesting. I haven't seen him play at all in 4 years.
He's a bucket, man.
Yeah. And we'll see what Markkaken. This is like a similar situation to the Bulls where it's a crowded front court. Like you kind of want to instill confidence with him, and so like hopefully they do start him and at least see it out what he looks like next to Allen, because you pay someone $67 million, you should at least want to see them get the real opportunity to play. And then if K Love's upset and he's throwing the ball at the referee or his own teammates, then like that's something you have to deal with. You got to think about the future.
All I know is wherever Markkanen ends up landing, like wherever he gets a majority of the minutes for the rest of his career, I hope they don't misuse him like the Bulls did. Like I hope they use him as just a tall ass guard who shoots a bunch of threes instead of like trying to put him in the post.
He was the pick that they got from Jimmy Butler, and you wanted it to really hit, and it was a top 7 pick, I do believe. So I want to go around the horn before we talk about intriguing matchups of that first week. This is do you have Garland or Sexton? Who do you value more? I'll start. I'm pro Garland over Sexton. Brad?
I'm pro Sexton.
Sexton. Chase?
Garland, 100%.
Doc?
Garland from a Sexton guy last year. Yeah, Garland was very impressive last year. I think his ability to distribute and his knockdown shooting ability. And look, I like Sexton. I think he's more of a stat stuffer than somebody that's going to help you win.
It's fair. I wouldn't dispute that. I just think I mean, we people call Russell Westbrook a stat stuffer. That doesn't make him, not a future Hall of Famer. Like I think there's talent in stat stuffing. If people could stat stuff, they would. If everybody could stat stuff, they would. But
but it's a stat stuff is it's all distributed in one category. It's like scoring,
points.
Westbrook leads the league in assists in 12 and grabs you 12 rebounds.
I know.
Like,
you're right.
That's a different level of.
But that didn't happen overnight though. He grew into that, right? Like I think you got to respect. Guys are going to continue to grow in their career, and that's all that Sexton's done since his rookie year.
Hey, I gotta give you one Cleveland Cavalier story from last year. So obviously they were out of the playoff hunt quickly, and when they played us, maybe with like a month and a half left in the season, they leave the locker room. They're about to, they're in the tunnel about to go warm up. And Kevin Love brings them all in, and he just goes, "Hey, hands in, Cancun on 3, 1, 2, 3, Cancun." With like a month and a half left in the season.
That's funny.
My. You heard it first.
That's funny.
Cancun on 3. So let's talk about
Kevin Love been thinking about Cancun, man.
Oh yeah, he's still living off of that the championship. Shout out Kevin Love though. This is a really good guy. One of our most intriguing matchups in the first week, NBA opens up with a rematch of that 7-game thriller of the Nets and the Bucks, followed by the Lakers at Warriors. LeBron James's team matched up with the Warriors on opening night. Christmas, no stranger to any of us. This time it's a little different. Russell Westbrook takes the court with the Lakers. I don't know if Klay Thompson will be back at that point. I don't speculate that he'll be brought in just then. I think they're planning for him to come back. Christmas Day was their number, but he looks good shooting the ball. But I think they're just being cautious after 2 major injuries. We haven't seen him play since the finals, which seems like the finals against the Raptors, which seems like, decades ago. So intriguing matchups that you're looking for opening night. Sometimes you see like blowouts in these opening nights, and it's not really dictative of their future trajectory of the season, but they're just trying to feel things out. Brad, what are you looking at? You took a look at the schedule. What do you see? What pops out to you?
Honestly, I'm going to go a little bit off the board here. I'm really intrigued at what the Rockets are going to look like. I think they've got so much young talent.
For those not keeping tabs at home, Brad has the Rockets pegged as a playoff team.
I do. And I know it's kind of a wild take because they were just horrendous last year. But all of their pieces fit together. And it's really – I'm almost shocked at what this GM has done for the Rockets. And I think that not only are they going to grow together, and I think we could be looking at, a Memphis or a Bucks type of run where, you get these guys really young and they all grow together and stay together. And then you have this super team that can be molded into a championship team. And I think we could be looking at the beginnings of that for Houston with Jalen Green, with Şengün, with Chris Wood, with KPJ. Like they just have a lot of talent, and I think they all have the chance to mesh together. So I want to see what that looks like early. I'm not gonna judge what comes, whatever comes. Maybe they get blown out by 30, whatever. It's gonna be early, but
Don't
I
forget
really
about
want to see
John
what they
Wall
look
and
like.
Eric Gordon. They still play on that team.
I did. I actually did forget about John Wall. So John Wall, Eric Gordon, on top of that, like they've got talent, and it's going to be really interesting to see what they do. I think defense is going to be their Achilles heel, but they might be able to put up 120 a night. So I don't know. I really want to see how that looks.
Chase?
Yeah, I think that the Bucks Nets game opening night is going to be interesting because I think one team is going to blow out the other team. I just don't know what. I'm not going to pick which team I think yet. It's kind of funny because a lot of stuff that we're hearing this offseason, like all these Bucks haters, all I'm hearing about is that Kevin Durant shot when his toe was on the line, and that's all I'm hearing. Like all I'm hearing is like, 2 more inches and the Bucks don't win, and it's gone. And the Nets win the championship without James Harden. And I'm like, all right, you can say that about any play at any type of in any game. So let's not go. So it's either that I think that the Bucks are either going to come out and just shut up all these haters and blow out the Nets, or they're going to come off there and they're going to have their championship hangover still, and the Nets are just going to blow them out and they're going to start off the season just being those dogs. But what I'm really looking forward to, kind of those first couple of days of opening night, is that Thursday when most of the teams that haven't played Tuesday or Wednesday. I'm looking into that Atlanta Hawks Dallas Maverick matchup, and I say that because these are two teams that kind of have a chip on their shoulder, and really just kind of that Trae Young Luka matchup. And I think that this is going to be a matchup for the next 10 to 12 years because again, those two guys got traded on draft night, and right now, yes, Luka is the better player, the more household name, but Trae Young, obviously, after last year's run, the Hawks are right now up here where the Mavericks are still working around Luka. So I think that's going to be a matchup to look out for, especially those two, because I think for the next, like I said, 10 to 12 years, those two are going to be compared to each other. So
two of the best showmen in the league, and Trae Young. I mean, the kid it reminds me of like LeBron and Steph as far as the haters that come at Trae Young. He's an 89 on 2K. Ronnie 2K, what are we doing? 89, and
probably about right.
You take your team to the Eastern Conference Finals and you shock the 76ers in Game 7 at home. Like they have the momentum. Trae Young has proven that it's not just stat stuffing. It's not just 30 and 10. It affects winning, and I mean, it's a spectacle. We all love to watch Trae Young, and what Luka does on the other end. I'm gonna be glued to that game as well. So I definitely like that pick, and something that we'll be watching for years and years and years to come. Doc, what you looking at?
So for me, I really like the opening night matchup against the Lakers and the Warriors.
Laker. Yes.
Because if you think about it, these two teams are probably at the end of their championship window. Like the Lakers with LeBron and Anthony Davis and Russell Westbrook. LeBron's turning 37 in December. Westbrook's 32. They're all, that takes up the majority of the salary cap. And for Golden State being a perennial dynasty to now missing the playoffs in the last 2 seasons, but they've kept the roster the same with the hope that Klay Thompson comes back and the Splash Brothers backcourt is once what it was, that Draymond is there, that they have James Wiseman, they have Andrew Wiggins, they have Jonathan Kuminga. So they have a deeper bench, but once again, they're still at the kind of tail end of that dynasty. So probably the teams that have the most to lose this year will just be interesting to see. And I think it's really interesting that they're playing opening night. I don't think it was a coincidence.
Does a team with just Russell Westbrook and Anthony Davis scare you guys?
No.
Really?
Nope.
What about you, Chase and Coach?
I think Chase said no.
No, I think yeah. I think still yeah.
Oh
yeah, okay. It scares me. What about you, Coach?
I think that it's scary. I don't think it's championship worthy.
No, they need more pieces, obviously.
Well, yeah.
But
you need new other pieces. I think you would need a third like elite player, like a Brad Beal. Like I think that they would still like you couldn't just put you
can't piece shooters around.
three 3-and-D guys. Like
Okay.
I think that wouldn't be enough. I think that it would be a really good team and a playoff team, but I think there's other teams that would be able to overcome it.
I mean, you know how I feel about Russ. Like, I honestly think this trade for the Lakers almost extended their championship window because he is only 32, and Anthony Davis is still young. So it's like if you have just those two and you piece around 3-and-D guys with them, I think that's making noise in the playoffs, honestly. But I
mean, you're
hear your point.
You're sacrificing depth for talent. Like if Russell Westbrook gets hurt, then the Lakers are really screwed. But I think
That's always the case.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. When you trade for a superstar, like they're a better team than they were last year. But that also means like they're an injury away from being significantly hampered.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the reason why I loved that trade was because the reason the Lakers didn't get far to me was because AD and LeBron both got hurt, or one of them was hurt. So by getting, like, while you are sacrificing depth, you're getting a guy in Russ who, historically is always healthy. And on top of that, if one of LeBron or AD gets hurt, you've still got a playoff caliber team that you can run with. So I don't know. I think this was the rare. I see what you're saying, Doc, and I agree with you. Like, they definitely sacrificed depth in all the players they traded away. But the way Russ plays is almost depth in itself. Like, he does so much that it makes it work.
And I know we're thinking about the future, but the present is still here. And you think about Russell Westbrook and AD being kind of younger superstars. LeBron James isn't going anywhere. Like, this is part of the reason why we're bringing in Russell, is that hopefully in the tail end of his career, which I think is not just extended to this year. I don't think he's done. The man averaged 26 a game last year and was Finals MVP the year before. I think that he's going to ease his way, take a little bit of the usage rate, figure out other parts of the game. Maybe we'll see more post-up Bron in the tail end of his career. We saw a lot of that with Jordan, with the Wizards, except you have like superstars around him where, the Lakers, I think that they don't just have a 1-2 year window. I think that they have a 3-year window with this group of 3 superstar core. So that's what I'm watching. I just want to see Russell Westbrook in a Laker uniform, bringing all that intensity, and he's matching up against probably the most eye-appealing player in our league, and that's Steph Curry. In the way that Steph was playing last year, like I'll watch Steph anytime he's playing. He can play the OKC, and I always watch anytime LeBron James is on TV. I watch it. So I'm intrigued for that, and I would love to see what they look like as teammates in those uniforms together.
Chase, did you notice any difference in culture with Russ there while you were in the building?
Yeah, 100%. It's kind of like similar to when Paul Pierce came to the Wizards, even though that was in his latter, years of his career. But yeah, 100%. I mean, when you have a guy like Russell Westbrook coming into your building, I mean, all the dudes, respected him. I mean, even Brad Beal, who was the franchise. So yeah, 100%. It's just he's a culture changer. And obviously it just didn't work out so well. And I can speak about that just because I think Russ was very frustrated with some of his teammates this year.
They were bad.
And it wasn't really just, because we were losing and we were bad. It was just the effort. And I think it's because he's pouring in everything on every play. Yeah. And there's just sometimes where, he's not seeing that in some of his teammates, and he's just like, I'm out of here. And I think mentally he knows that he wants it out because obviously he has a better chance of winning in LA, but I think mentally he knows that those guys, LeBron, AD, are not going to just give up. They're going to give everything they have. So like I said, you have to bring him when you play with Russ, 48 minutes. And if not, he's going to
sneaky good signing.
He's not going to pass the ball, and he's going to take awful shots, and it's just going to hurt the team.
Russ would have loved playing with Thomas Bryant. I wish that had happened. I wish he didn't get hurt.
He definitely was on Thomas's case when Thomas was there, trying to get the best out of him, and he looked like he was playing some good basketball with some intensity. But a sneaky chill sign as far as my perspective for the Lakers. It looks like after Rajon Rondo's buyout, he is likely to sign with the Lakers. That gives you a third point guard, and obviously he had a big role on that championship run. And he's a savant of the game of basketball. not many people digest the game or have as strong of an IQ as Rondo does. And, it's like adding another player coach on that team. And with Jason Kidd out, like, you need as many brains around the team as you can. So I think that was a cool little signing. A good reunion. They got him back. They got Dwight back.
Who the hell is going to sign DeMarcus Cousins, man? I'm starting to get worried.
No one. He's out.
Really? You think so? You think he's done?
He'll be in the big three next summer.
Clippers will bring him back. Wow. If he is in the big three, watch out, Joe Johnson, because we might have a new best player. Joe Johnson, the way he dominates the big three, I did want to sprinkle this in. I don't know if you guys have been keeping up, but he leads the big three in points. He's second in rebounds. He's second in assists. He's first in steals. The guy hits game winners.
Joe Johnson's still a ball player.
He should be in the NBA.
He should be in the NBA, and he should be leading all these stats because the big three this year is getting no love from any media outlets. And it's not obviously, I think it hurt with COVID, but the big three is kind of a joke this year. And I think it's because that if you look at the rosters, it's obviously, old NBA players, but then some dudes I think every city, not every city, but I think in some cities they had like open tryouts, and they took some of these dudes who just are playground players. So it's like, I think that's why the big three is struggling.
I can't believe y'all are saying Joe Johnson should be in the league and DeMarcus Cousins shouldn't be.
One has had a lot of injuries. One hasn't.
But also the reason why I say DeMarcus Cousins won't be in the NBA because he's not a locker room guy at all. And it's funny because obviously everyone has known that, but like, you're a locker room guy, you will have a job somewhere in the NBA. And if you're not,
everybody loves him. Everybody, like the Warriors loved him. The Clippers loved him.
If they loved him, they'd still be with them, though.
Fair point. Yeah.
The Warriors thing, he was also kind of involved in the screaming match with Draymond and KD. Kind of called out Dre.
He was calming them down. Remember, he was like, no, you could see it on the video. He was like, Draymond, chill, play.
No, but I'm talking about what happened in the locker room. I think that there was a big discourse, and I'm pretty sure that
I don't know this. What are you talking about?
Boogie kind of took KD's side as far as Draymond. You've taken it too far, and when you have two alphas like that, then it creates this tension, and it's like, okay, KD knows that I got Boogie on my side. Draymond's got whoever he's talking to at the moment. Like there was just tension there, and if they don't get hurt, they still win that championship, and talent exceeds whatever else is going on in the water. But to Chase's point, I think that he kind of plays a role in that, because when you get into it with Boogie, it's in the back of your head always, because he's a bully, right? Like you want that guy on your side, and when there's kind of discourse in there that could really be problematic, and we saw the fallout that happened. So, I'm not saying that he's not good enough to be in the league. I think he will get signed. I think that somebody will sign him sometime during the season to get some minutes. And he had a couple flashes, and even in the playoffs for the Clippers, where he played some minutes. He can still score the basketball at a high level. He's just so slew-footed though these days. He can't really keep up with anybody.
That's true. Would you rather, as a team right now, would you rather sign DeMarcus Cousins or Paul Millsap?
Paul Millsap.
Cousins.
Joe Johnson.
Really? Man.
I'm a huge Paul Millsap guy. So
he's a free agent.
Good question. That's a good question.
He did change his diet. Millsap got thinner, and he can still 3-and-D a little bit in short time.
I'd put my money that Millsap is signed by a team that quicker than Cousins, and it's strictly just based on locker room veteran leader.
Let's go back to Utah.
I've never heard a single negative thing about Paul Millsap in my life.
Sap. Like Millsap.
Yeah.
All right, so
like that.
We're gonna talk about some old guys. What a great transition. And now we're gonna talk about some young guys. And I love to talk futures and prospects of the future. This was huge news this week. This might have been the biggest basketball news, and that is we now have the number 1 and number 2 recruit of the 2023 class reclassify in the 2002 class, which then makes their rating like 3 and 7. But anyways, these two AAU teammates of Jalen Duran and Emoni Bates, who was as a sophomore the Gatorade Player of the Year in the entire nation. They joined Penny Hardaway's Memphis Tigers. Who are you looking at in college basketball or the NBA G League as far as hyping up for this 2022 draft, which, I mean, it looks like this 2021 draft was pretty damn good. I think this next one, where we got there's some really strength at the top. There's some really good players. So who are you looking at, Doc? Anybody in particular stand out to you, or teams that you're watching?
Nobody does stick out to me in particular, but I just think the whole landscape changing is kind of interesting because this is Mike Krzyzewski's last year. So who knows what Duke is going to look like? You know, Duke was typically a 4-year school. They were one of the last teams to go to the one and done. They haven't been nearly the same team they've been in the tournament. And next year they're going to have a new coach. And as we've seen with the number 1 and 2 picks this year, one went to college, one went to the G League. So are those powerhouse schools like Kentucky and Duke still going to be able to recruit these one and dones? Are they going to go to schools like Villanova now or Virginia that have had more recent success? Or are we going to just see them, you know, try and market as soon as they can and go to the G League? So
it just happened that Duke did land 2 of those top 10 guys. One's Paolo Banchero's the number 2 rated player, and the other one is AJ Griffin, which is Adrian Griffin's son and who looks the part. So you have 2 guys that are most likely top 10 picks from Duke. And, you know, we saw Zion and we saw Reddish and we saw that matchup. I see that they really have a team this year that could be in that type of contention, especially in Coach K's last year.
But they've had studs recently. Like they've had very good recruits and just haven't meshed well or played well in the tournament. And the players will get selected high because of their prospect pedigree. But it's just interesting because I think the draft or the tournament can really help your value. It can't really hurt it. And we're seeing, I think, for other players in schools that they're getting more attention. So I just think that's kind of an interesting trend I'm looking forward to this year.
All right, and I love Paolo Banchero, but by the way, just to transition before I hear some of these other guys, because so those 2 guys for Duke are some people that really stand out to me. AJ Griffin, we haven't seen as much in this pandemic period. He's faced like a couple injuries, but he has that prototypical wing positioning, body build, and USA background. And Paolo Banchero, who I just seen him working out with Brinkley yesterday, 6'10", lights out shooter. He can hit you off the dribble. He has got a nice mid-range game. He's smooth. He has an Italian background, so it's good to have a representative from that country. But he actually could compete with Chet Holmgren for that number 1 position. That's how talented this kid is. Chase?
You know, I'm really excited for Memphis in the next coming years. I mean, Penny Hardaway, I think he's going to get a lot of recruits just because, you know, these guys, you know, these 16, 17, 18-year-old guys, their parents know Penny Hardaway. And by putting Rasheed Wallace as your lead assistant, that's going to help recruiting as well. I think that's huge. And I really like, you know, that they got Emoni Bates. But with Emoni Bates, I mean, he's 17 right now. So obviously he was in high school. He was a 6'9" point guard, I believe. So I think it's going to be somewhat of a transition from him going to be a 6'9" point guard to, I mean, are they just going to kind of play like an NBA positionless, or is he going to have to play kind of big in college?
He's more of he's a wing. I know he would bring the ball up, but he's not your traditional point guard. He's literally a sniper. And he can get you off the dribble. I call him Baby KD because his skill set, his movements, his step back, it's unbelievable how he can go and create a shot. One of the weaknesses, though, is they've talked about his coachability. Sometimes he thinks he's bigger than the team. I think Penny and Rasheed will help check that. He is not eligible for this year's draft, by the way. Not eligible. And I've never really seen that with a kid that goes up in a class. They have to play a year, but then they're not, like Chase said, he's not going to be 18 by the time draft day hits. So he's got to wait another year unless Silver changes the rules. But you might see 1 year in Memphis. He might go G League after that. He might go overseas. Like, there's no guarantee that he plays 2 years with Memphis. I see. So Jalen Duran, he did move up, but he's old enough to be eligible in this year's draft, and I see him going to the draft. So that's something intriguing about Memphis.
I thought the rule was 18 or 1 year removed from high school. Like, I think, like, how is he not eligible after playing a year at Memphis?
That's the. I mean, I've read all about it, but it had to do with the age thing. So
Uh-huh.
I feel like he would have just went straight to the Ignite, made money,
Exactly.
and then why? I mean, that's personally why I think.
There's other kids that have done that are going in. This is going to be their junior year, and they're going to play for the G League Ignite at like 16. Like, you're allowed to do it. There was a kid that signed a 7-figure contract or 6-figure contract, or deal for a 2-year thing. So
Yeah.
But yeah, I the first
NAL
thing
probably helps.
the first thing I saw when Emoni Bates reclassed, I'm like, is he eligible for the draft? Because Chet Holmgren, who we haven't talked about yet, is number one on most people's boards. But Emoni Bates in there, they could shake things up. And right now he's number 3 behind Holmgren and Banchero from Duke.
I'm about to talk about Chet Holmgren, but it's negatively, actually, because I think the best.
Yeah, you've said on record you're pro the kid from France, Wamba, right?
Yeah, that's exactly what I was about to talk about. So, Victor Wembanyama, he's going to be in the 2023 draft. He's 7'2", 7'8" wingspan. He shoots threes. He gets blocks. He gets boards. I don't know if you've seen him playing with Rudy Gobert and almost like dominating him. Like, it's kind of shocking. This kid comes from a background of professional parents, or professional athlete parents, I should say. The kid he's just a fascinating specimen. I think he's a better prospect than LeBron was coming out of high school, and I honestly think that he's going to be the best player of like all time if he continues this trajectory. He put up like 20, 8 blocks in a U19 game in the FIBA Nationals. The dude is just a specimen to watch. I don't know if you saw him against Chet Holmgren in a recent international matchup. He made Chet look like, just another guy. And
another
Chet
guy.
Holmgren, he might be a number 1 pick. Like,
they won gold in that game. That was the gold matchup. It was France versus USA, and Chet Holmgren, who won the MVP of that tournament, did more than his job. He didn't look ordinary. Wemby had a couple more points, but he's also the focal point of that French team. I like Chet Holmgren better. So this would be an interesting debate for me and Brad going forward, because these are two guys that do play the same position. I love Chet Holmgren's instincts defensively. I like his toughness. He's very frail, very frail. He's got a bit come into his body, but he's a sniper from deep. He can shoot it off the dribble. I mean, he made it big from crossing up Steph Curry at Steph Curry's camp. But he's going to go to Gonzaga, and Gonzaga's not going to skip a beat. He's a former AAU teammate of Jalen Suggs. And when Jalen Suggs player of the year, Chet Holmgren was the next year. I think this is Chet Holmgren's time. He doesn't skip. Like, he's playing basketball all the time. I see him. He's over there in the Portland program. He's here. He's there. He's never scared of the bump. He's playing everybody. And I just love his ability on both ends. I think he moves his feet better than Wamby. And that's, to me, I think that makes him a better overall defensive player. He averaged 5 blocks a game this senior season. I really love Chet Holmgren. He's always been playing with Team USA. And we'll see as far as those two guys head-to-head. But I think that because Wamby will be in the future draft, it's going to be more Holmgren versus Banchero this year in comparison on who's probably going to go to that number 1 pick. Banchero is bigger, like he has a better NBA body build right now, but Chet is taller, and he looks like he's the better defensive force overall. One other guy that I definitely wanted to mention before we move on from the prospects, that is, Jalen Green's replacement. His name is Jaden Hardy, and this kid is a walking bucket. He has zero conscience. He's shooting it from half court. He shoots bad shots, but he makes a lot of these difficult shots. He really is shifty. It's so hard to stay in front of him, and he's got a good, strong build. He's that 6'4", 6'5", shifty point, mixed guard position. They have a bunch of other prospects that are probably 2 of those guys will go first round. They got a kid, Dyson Daniels from Australia, but Jaden Hardy has an outside chance of being the number 1 overall pick because he's what the league needs, and that's playmaking guards. And he averaged close to 30, 10 and 10 his last year in high school, and now he's taking his talents to the G League Ignite, and he's special. He really is. So you guys have a take on Hardy? Do you have a case for making him maybe possibly the number 1 overall pick when we get to that point? No. All right. Well, we'll see. We'll get a lot of action. We get a lot of G League games on ESPN, so we'll see that. Moving on, our most underrated player in the NBA. Chase, who is your most underrated player in the NBA? Now, we didn't specify this as like top tier talent, middle. This could be anywhere, wherever you thought when I said underrated, who are you thinking about?
I was going to say maybe 2 months ago before the Bucks won the finals, I would
Drew
still
Holiday.
say Holiday.
Yeah.
Seriously.
I agree with you.
Right now, not to say – I mean, I can't really say Drew Holiday now.
Yeah.
Ooh, that's a tough one. It could be anyone. Don't sleep on Derek White in San Antonio.
Okay. All right. I like that.
I think he's got a lot of upside. And I think this year he might, with San Antonio, they're kind of in that stage where, they got rid of DeRozan. They don't really have that dog right now. I mean, Dejounte Murray at the point guard spot. But kind of last year, when DeRozan had a weird year last year. It wasn't your typical like 22, 23. I think his points went down to maybe in the lower 20s, and he was dishing out more. Derek White had some 30-point games. And I think this year, he kind of has the keys in San Antonio. And if he can shoot the ball at a consistent rate and kind of work on finishing better, I think he could be around a 17 to 18-point scorer.
That's interesting. He might get if he does play to that level, he might get a most improved player because he was so injury riddled last year. It just seemed like they brought him back too early or something because every time he played and he missed 5 games and he played a couple. So, but before that, he was showing promise. He did make that Team USA that they sent out that we lost in the Worlds, but he got some good experience there. I know Papa's a coach, and we saw him keep Keldon Johnson this past year. So Keldon Johnson might be on the top of some people's list because that kid can really hoop. He made a big jump last year. So we got a Derek White shout out for the Spurs. Brad, who you got?
Oh, Ben Simmons, without a doubt.
Oh,
I mean, people act like he's a scrub now because they saw him have a bad performance. This guy's an all-NBA defensive talent. He's going to be a Hall of Famer. I don't care if he shoots another three-pointer in his life. Ben Simmons is an incredible talent, and he gets a tremendous amount of hate.
Doc?
I think it's Malcolm Brogdon.
Yes! You nailed it! You nailed it, Doc. Go ahead.
It's funny. It's funny because we talk about Drew Holiday, and Drew Holiday is the one that he replaced, but he's increased his scoring each year from 10 to 13, 15, 16. Career high 21.2 this year. Great shooter from the line, about 88% for his career. Career 50% from the 2. He's increasing his 3-point percentage, averaging 6 assists last year. Just a great defender. He doesn't put up the numbers. Like his career steals is less than 1 per game, but he's known as a great lockdown defender and just somebody that we don't talk about, especially for being a second-round draft pick.
Wow. Me and Doc I got to give him some timeout time because when he comes back, he sees the light. He sees the truth. It is definitely Malcolm Brogdon to me. When I looked at this question, it screamed. Like Doc pointed out, he increases points per game every single season, going from 16.5 to 21 last year. They got swept in the playoffs for the Pacers the year before, but they were banged up. And it wasn't in part because of him. He averaged 22 and 10 assists. So he can distribute a little bit. He rebounds well. He's a former 50, 40, 90 player. He's a solid defender who can guard both guard positions. He's fundamentally sound. He's a very smart player, that pedigree from playing the pack line at Virginia. He's 28. He's in the prime of his career. If I am a contending team, he is a player that can put you over the edge. So I really value him. Based on his contract, I think he got like a 4 or 5 year, 80 mil. He's on a really good number. And he's just a guy that screams winning and shooting those high efficiency numbers that Doc pointed out, he was the first guy that I thought of.
Doc, Coach, would you guys give him the max?
Yes.
Well, it depends on the max, like not the super max, like not the full out number, but I would max him out to keep him. I would. If you're giving Jared Allen $100 million, this guy is to me is a way more valuable player.
Ooh.
I'm gonna change my answer just a little bit because I know we were going big names. I'm gonna tell you someone who's really underrated, who never gets any love in my opinion, and that's Clint Capela.
That's true.
Oh.
This man like never played basketball until he was like 16. He goes to Houston, and they just kind of throw him in there because he's the only height they have on that team. And he went from blocking like a half of blocks his first year to like a consistently 1.7 to 2. And in those Rockets years, I mean, everyone goes off on Harden how he wasn't playing defense. So he was kind of that guy in the paint. And then he goes to Atlanta. And again, Trae Young doesn't play defense. Kevin Herter doesn't play defense. I mean, I know that's your guy, but but in Atlanta, he was pretty much the defensive guy. And no one talks about his rebounding. I mean, he led the league in rebounds. It's ridiculous. I think he did, right? It was him, right? Capela. Yeah. He was the rebounding champ last year.
Yeah. And, he averaged 14 a game. So
yeah. And he gets no love because he's not putting up crazy amounts, and the only time he scores is off alley-oops. But you got to talk about him a little bit.
He does have a subtle like look about him that he doesn't really get. He never gets mentioned. Even like in Atlanta, they went to the Eastern Conference Finals, and you heard a lot of Trae Young and even Kevin Herter, but or Collins. You don't really hear Capela. I mean, he completely changed that team. They weren't even in the playoffs the year before. I mean, yeah, I know they signed a bunch of people, but I wouldn't say Bogdanovich and Gallinari was the reason why they went to the Eastern Conference Finals. They were contributors. Their biggest, I guess, free agent pickup, because he never played a game after the trade, was Capela last year. That was huge.
Capela averaged 15, 14, and 2 blocks last year.
Yep.
14. He's getting a little bit of a jump shot too.
He's just he kind of reminds me of like early stage DeAndre Jordan, though. That's kind of why, like you said, like he only scores on alley-oops and he can rebound his ass off. It's just like at this point, at this game, this stage in the NBA, like I almost worry that you can find that anywhere. Like I wouldn't want to pay that dude huge money because I feel like he has a skill set that is easily found in other big men.
Well, I think he's on a similar contract to Malcolm Brogdon too. I think he's on a good number.
Yes, he's on like a 580.
Yeah. And so I like that. We got one more to go around. Who is your favorite new breakout player of the 2021 season? This could be a rookie. This could be a Jeremy Grant that came, got a new look on a new team and played higher than what they were expected to do. Who broke out to you in this last season, Brad?
This was a tough one to me. I don't know who really broke out, because I almost discount Jeremy Grant. I don't think of as a breakout player. I think of as he was a guy getting garbage time points on a terrible team. Like he was the only person.
He averaged 23 though last year. So
but anybody, if you give anybody in the NBA Jeremy Grant's role on that Detroit team, they could put up his numbers. I don't know.
Anybody can average 23.
That's not how it works, Brad.
I mean, yeah, it's not how it works, but I'm just saying, it is. He doesn't have.
No, that's not. You just can't say it's not. Okay, yeah, it is. No, it isn't.
Brad, you should just went with Kevin Porter Jr. He broke out last year.
Kevin Porter Jr.
There you go. Now you're right. You're the man. Hey, that was like a 20-game sample size, Chase. He was crushing it at the end of the season. Doc, who broke out to you?
So, are we looking forward for next year, right? Or for this upcoming season?
I was gonna say that from this past season, but if you want, hey, we're talking about preview. We're looking at schedules. You can
I mean,
you think's gonna break out next year.
So I definitely have to look when rosters are set and teams still might make trades. But there's two guys I really like, and one is a Wizards guy, Daniel Gafford, which the local people know. The local people know he's ready to break out. But I also think Jalen Suggs is probably in a position to help turn the Magic franchise around. I think he's a very NBA-ready player. I don't think there's going to be pressure on him because the Magic are a mediocre franchise and he wasn't a top 3 pick. So I'm very interested to see what he do. I think he has a very efficient rookie year, not flashy, but kind of a breakout from where his draft position was.
I feel like I was wrong about Jalen Suggs after watching him in summer league. Like I thought he was going to have trouble scoring.
You were wrong.
He looks real comfortable.
You were wrong.
He looks fluid. He looks fluid.
Yeah, he looks real fluid. Yeah, I like Jalen Suggs, man.
Chase.
I love the Gafford pick. I'm going to go with someone kind of similar, who I think is going to break out, who got paid $54 million, I think, over 4 on basically one huge game in the playoffs last year, and then the team was like, "Oh, we're going to pay this guy." That's Robert Williams of the Celtics.
Oh,
and he almost had a triple double against the Brooklyn Nets. He had 11 points, 9 rebounds, 9 blocks, and in like 20 minutes. So, and last year he was only playing 18 minutes a game, and I know that a lot of talk around the league was that he's kind of that motor guy, kind of similar to like a Clint Capela. He's going to protect the rim. He's going to rim run. He's going to catch alley-oops, but he wasn't getting the time. Brad Stevens was not playing him at all. And then I don't
know if that Brad Stevens like respected him too much. I think that coaching change might help Robert Williams a lot. Remember he overslept his rookie year in that playoff game. Like he didn't shoot around on time. But yeah, go ahead.
I do remember that, and I think he is going to be the starting center. So. I think that he could get more time and he's going to put up some stats. And I think he could be important to that kind of role right there with Tatum and Brown. I think he could have a similar role to Clint Capela. He's going to, be that defensive presence in the paint. And, he could get some really nice numbers. And I just think it's crazy that, they kind of paid him big, $13 million a year on someone who played 18 minutes a game is kind of crazy to me. So I hope he breaks out.
It is. And obviously they see it every day. So maybe they see something as far as that defensive ability, because he does have upside. Docs always points out his his first 36 numbers are crazy. Like if he actually did play, he averaged like 4 or 5 blocks a game. So we'll see what happens with maybe more opportunity and more maturity, because I think that's been one of his weaknesses in his early part of his career, is just not being professional enough. I have the answer, and it's to Doc's chagrin here. It's LaMelo Ball. LaMelo Ball took the league by storm last year, 16-6-6, rookie of the year. Only started 31 games of the 51 that he played, but he changed that Hornets franchise around there. And now, it was the first year, but I could see this team in the playoffs for a long time. He affects winning. The kid is underhand passing, full court, dimes. He just plays with a flair and electricity that speaks volumes. And a lot of people see this only going up. You could see this kid possibly averaging a triple-double. He's showing some defensive instincts that, people never really gave him credit for beforehand. They never really saw him give effort on that end. But a 6'7" point guard that just flashes, dazzles, and can shoot off the dribble. My guy's LaMelo Ball, and he's here to stay, and he'll be very entertaining for the future. And hopefully Jalen Green provides that for Houston this year. So we'll see. Anything you guys want to plug on the way out? Anything going on?
Guys, I have a video coming out of why LeBron is a very overrated player. It's going to be very controversial.
Don't check it out.
It is going to be very controversial. I've spent weeks doing research. It's going to be good. It's going to be good.
Jeez.
I'll be the first one because I'm with you, Doc.
Hey!
And I don't know if you guys saw this, but over the weekend, I don't know if it was House of Highlights or one of these highlight pages showed like a 10-pack of LeBron. It was like the caption was like LeBron shooting from the logo before it was cool. And I'm like, first of all, come on. Like
I saw that.
You saw that?
Yeah.
It's like,
it was
first of all,
ridiculous.
half of them were buzzer beaters, running buzzer beaters.
Yeah. It was ridiculous.
LeBron drinking Gatorade before everybody else did it.
Also, I have a bunch of fantasy football and fantasy basketball articles on fantraxhq.com. Make sure to check those out.
Excellent.
No.
Don't check out the LeBron overrated thing. Why would we do that? Space Jam 1 was better. Wherever you find your podcast, go follow the Triple Play Fantasy franchise. Look out for our baseball, basketball, football pods drop every week. Our Triple Play Fantasy YouTube channel is dropping content every day. This includes Coach's Corner, me and Coach Coleman, Movie Minute Reviews, Brad and Johnny, Super Fantasy Bros with Jacob and Kev, Fantasy 15, sports arguments in 15 minutes or less between the scenes with Marty and Mac for everything fantasy baseball related, and Fantasy Foodies with D. Mendy and his crew. Check us out. We got everything you need. We are going to continue to grind and make this podcast the favorites like Joe Johnson and the triplets of the Big Three. Check us out on Twitter and IG at Triple Play Fantasy. Thanks again from the entire Triple Play Fantasy family for joining in.